Hello, and thanks for joining us. Welcome to Higgs In Conversation With. This podcast is designed to dive into the minds of some of the most successful individuals who are in senior positions within leading businesses in the UK and aims to provide a peek into their life, both personally and professionally. My name is James Modley, and I will be your host. I am a partner in the commercial dispute resolution team at Higgs LLP. I'm really excited to have join me this sunny morning, Bali Bandha, Group Chief Financial Officer at Palletline. Palletline is the UK's first premium palletised freight distribution network company operating across the UK and Europe. Its members are carefully selected to work collaboratively to provide the best possible service to each customer. Launched in 1992, Palletline revolutionised the way pallets are transported in relation to the hub and spoke distribution method. Bali, welcome. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you today.
Hi, James. I'm really looking forward to joining you.
Thank you, mate. Right, so just very briefly, tell us about what your job role is and what you do on a daily basis.
Okay, so I'm Group CFO, and as part of my job, I look after pretty well everything other than operations and commercial. So I cover legal, HR, finance, IT, business intelligence. So across the board. So my day-to-day role really is that I spend a lot of time with my team and with my colleagues, just making sure that the business is strategically moving forward in the right direction, in line with our strategy.
So, CFO, everyone always assumes it's all about numbers, but from what you've said, that is only a part of it, certainly not the main part.
Absolutely. So I have a team who look after all the numbers for me. But my role is more about working with the executive team and the board and making sure that we have a strategic direction which is in line with the values and the ethics of the company and the members, and that we are executing to that plan as best as we can do, but always with a view to looking forwards, making sure that we are well aware of the challenges, e.g. some of the challenges we are facing in the world at the moment, both macro and local, and we are prepared to be able to adapt our business to make sure that we stick with our core values, which is our customer service, 100% UK coverage, and make sure that our customers get the best service possible, whatever the circumstances are.
Right, you've given me a lot to go at there because there's some really important words that you've said that I'd love to expand on if I can. And I think that is an absolute brilliant oversight. And certainly what I'd love to do is just go a little bit deeper with you just on some of those points. So I think one of the key things that you mentioned there is team. So tell me about your team. What's the structure? But then also just expand on, for our viewers, the company. So just explain how the company operates. What's the hub and spoke distribution network?
Okay.
Over to you.
So Palletline, as you said, the first network set up in 1992. And the reason it was set up really was to allow a small group of individual businesses to be able to effectively and commercially viably distribute small numbers of pallets. So, for example, a member in Scotland wants to deliver to a customer in Cornwall. If he's got 20 plus pallets, then it's commercially viable to be able to send a truck down there with that. But if he's only got 2 pallets going every day, for example, it's not commercially viable to send a truck down. So the sort of 4 or 5 original members got together and said, basically, if we set up hubs in various areas, the members can deliver into those hubs, and basically one member will bring, let's say, a truckload of 40 pallets down to the hub. the hub will decant that and then send it back out to the individual geographical areas where those pallets are due to be delivered. And that makes it commercially viable to be able to pick up small numbers of pallets and send them out. So that's the basic concept of it all. In terms of the team here, so we have an operations team which looks after the hubs, both locally here and in Coventry, which is our two main hubs. We also have member-based hubs in Scotland and in just north of Manchester. And we also have a hub at one of our own logistics businesses. So overall, the business is divided into two key elements. The first element is the hub, whose sole purpose is to provide a efficient network service to allow members to send their pallets here, have them unloaded, sorted, and put onto the right vehicle to take them to the geographical location where the customer is based. The second part of it is our own logistics depots, of which we now have 7. Okay. Most of those have come about because our members who have covered a particular geographical territory have not had a succession plan in place, maybe, or their own offspring don't want to take over those businesses. And so, but these members have really enjoyed their time with Palletline and they want their employees continue with Palletline. So they've asked Palletline to buy those businesses and keep running them. Okay. Palletline has now got 7 of those companies. So we have different pressures on the business. So from a Palletline network point of view, we are privately owned 100% by the members. So we don't have the typical sort of pressures of, commercial success required from the business. It's more about making sure that we get the right service and that we are developing the network to continue to improve the customer experience as best as we can. The logistics businesses, on the other hand, are separate businesses. They are run as completely separate commercial enterprises who need to generate profit and cash in their own right. Yeah. Palletline's need to generate profit and cash is purely to be able to continue to invest in our IT technology and other efficiency services to make sure that we continue to give that best service to our members and, in the end, our customers. So we are currently investing something like about £1.6 million in upgrading our current IT system that manages the inflow of pallets and the outflow of pallets, providing sort of full track and traceability to our pallets.
So, Bali, it sounds like an incredibly complex but equally a collaborative organisation with the business all across the UK. I mean, pulling all of that together and you being in your role, you mentioned teams, so surely you're going to have to rely on your team around you and other people within the business to make sure that the day-to-day operations tick quite nicely. So just tell me, what's your typical day? And I don't have a typical day, by the way. I think I do when I log on. I've got a lovely list, but my list never actually gets done. If not, it gets added to. So what's your typical day, if there is such a thing?
There isn't really, because it tends to be whatever the needs of the business are. But we'll have, for example, so we have an executive team of 3, which is the CEO, the COO, and myself. Okay. And typically, we will make sure that we will touch base formally and informally at least a couple of times a week, and then individually as each other as we need to, which is all designed to make sure that we are on top of what is happening today, and how do we make sure that tomorrow is another good day, quite frankly. And that works very, very well for us. And I do the same thing with my teams. So I have a finance team headed by our controller. I have a business intelligence team headed by one of our analysts. I have an IT team headed by an IT director. and I have an HR team headed by our director of HR.
Okay.
So again, I touch base with them usually every day, whether it's by phone or email or sometimes personally. And that is all designed to making sure that we are on top of the day all the time. They all know their jobs. They are well-defined jobs and roles. They know their responsibilities. They have their own teams to help them and support them and deliver. The most important part of it all is communication, so that if it looks like something is maybe not quite going to plan, we can deal with that and change whatever we need to change immediately. So
Okay. So
my time is communication.
and communication, right? I always say this, and I've said it on various podcasts before. Communication should be the easiest thing to do, but is actually the most difficult thing in the world to make sure that it's right. I'm guilty of that, and I'm still learning how to communicate properly for sure. But I think, and I'm not the best with numbers, but I think you've probably got 4 or 5 teams feeding into you there from what you've said.
Yeah.
So just tell us, how do you keep on top of that? To keep all of the plates spinning in a complex operation, what's the secret to keeping on top of that? And I think I know what you're about to say, but I'm going to ask the question anyway.
The secret is good people and good systems, right, which feed you like a dashboard, basically, so that you can actually see the sort of key barometers, the key measure points that you have. Are they going according to plan? If they're not, it tells you straight away. But equally, it's being available to my team on a daily basis, 24/7, quite frankly, so that if there is anything they are concerned about or anything looks like it might go awry, they have access to phone me whenever they want to. If I can't take the phone, I will phone them back. But I think this is just part of what we have to accept as life. That doesn't mean that we don't get the work-life balance right. That doesn't mean that we don't have quality time with our families, etc. Because Palletline is a business that is built up of members who largely are all family businesses.
Yeah.
Palletline is a family, and the only reason I joined it was because I was welcomed so warmly as an interim when I first came in. And so it's important to us, but it's also important to be able to communicate to each other openly and not be afraid of it. If something's gone wrong, okay, that's life. The point is let's discuss it, let's sort it out, and let's move forward with it.
I think it's that communication. I was expecting you to say communication, by the way, and you did, thankfully. And I think that communication piece, whether it's through the systems, whether it's through the procedures that you have in place, whether it's phone call, text, whatever, and trusting your people to make the right judgment calls and know when they need to lean on you. And I think what you said was having good people around you. Certainly, if I look across our business and in my team, I think we're fortunate to have good people, but they're really, really difficult to come by. And I think if you can manage to pull that team together, all of the various commitments flow quite nicely because each person knows their role, what needs to happen, but equally, when things aren't going well, and that's life, as you say, when to pull other people in to make sure it gets back on track. But just unpicking you, Bali. So when did you join Palletline?
December 23. My first introduction was a board meeting, which I attended as an interim. Basically, the previous FD had left the business in December. I was at the time a fractional CFO, and Palletline approached us to see if we could go in and help them, and I was available to join them for a period of time. So I joined in December 23, was interim for about 3 months or so. They asked me to join them, and I'd been welcomed so warmly into the business, not just by the board of directors, not just by the exec team, but members that I'd met, but equally as importantly, the staff here, the teams here. Nobody was hiding anything. Nobody was playing any games. Everybody was just so open and welcomed me with open arms. And I think I added value and sort of brought a different dimension to the business.
Yeah.
and that warmed people even more towards me. And so it was just like a marriage made in heaven. Don't tell my wife I said that, please, because marriage is really made in heaven.
But we won't let her watch this or listen to it.
Okay.
So I think what you're trying to say, it's culture, isn't it? It's the culture that attracted you to. And I think we really are proud of the culture that we have here. And I'm fairly new, so I joined April 24, so just over 2 years ago. But it's the intangible thing. As soon as I walk through the door speaking to people, you get this warm feeling, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think you're right in what you say. It's got to be a fit. The culture's got to be aligned with you and the business. But if you can get that right, that's the secret ingredient that you can't buy, that you can't force upon people. It's just naturally got to come down from all levels of the business. And that's what makes it so special. So that's really interesting. I'll come on to that. But in terms of, for someone that is looking to be a group CFO, what do you class as optimal performance for someone in your role?
Wow. I don't think there is such a thing as optimal performance in my role, because I think it's got to be geared towards you as an individual, and equally as importantly, the business needs. So, because, for example, a CEO and a CFO, their roles cover such a wide range of disciplines right across the business. It's about adapting yourself, right, to be able to deliver what the business needs are. And so, for example, if a business is in distress, it's got different needs. So you've got to adapt yourself to do that. So your optimal performance could be having to work at that stage, 24/7 with a bunch of people doing it. If the
Yeah,
business is going great, then there's a strategic development where you've got to go out and network more. You've got to go out and build your build your whole sort of structure up and network up to make sure that you can look for the new avenues, adjacencies in businesses, acquisitions, mergers, etc. So it could be a whole bunch of things. For me, the optimal performance is the business is stable, and are you moving forwards? Do you feel that you and your business is moving forwards? And if you are, to me, that's optimal performance that you can get to.
and you mentioned before about the customer experience being successful, building upon what you've already got to go to the next level. What are your three non-negotiables for success? And then how do you measure that success?
Okay, so how we measure that success is a couple of things, basically. One of the key ones, basically, is our service performance, which is measured by the industry, and it is industry-led. And we are at the right at the forefront of that, with circa 98% delivery performance, compared to published stats in our network, which is about 2% below our own stats.
Brilliant.
So that's the first thing that we use to measure. And we know that experience is there for the customers, because we get regular feedback through our members, and we've got really good customer retention. So that then sort of focuses in onto customer retention.
Yeah.
Why do customers stay with us? I think it's because they get good service, but they also get track and traceability. So we've
Right.
invested a lot of money in investing in technology to make sure that the pallet is, from the start of its journey to the end of its journey, we can track it, we can trace it, we can provide evidence of delivery safely and securely. And then our teams, our delivery teams especially, and our collection teams, they're so important to us, because they are the real face of what the customer sees, whether it's the customer at the depot, at the customer where we pick up the pallet, or the end customer where we deliver it. They're all customers of ours. And it's so important that we make sure that our teams are trained to do things efficiently, effectively, but with a style which is warm and family and friendly and
Yep.
cooperatively, but within the rules and regulations, making sure that they abide by all the health and safety regulations, etc., to make sure that they're doing things in a nice, warm way, but in a very safe way, both for themselves and the customers. So I think those are the key things that we look at in terms of measuring it. And we've got a really good service level. We've got really good customer retention, and we get feedback from our customers telling us, we are good and they want to work with us.
And I think feedback for us, you're only as good as your last job. certainly in my world. And the feedback is a massive part of how we grow and how we sustain what we are. So customer feedback is just priceless, isn't it? But if I put the business non-negotiables to one side, what's Bali's non-negotiable? So what's your non-negotiable as an individual?
So my mother was a massive influence on me, and she really installed in me some sort of values, I think, really from my point of view, which is, honesty, openness, communication and common sense. And, you can expand those as much as you want to, but the very basics are, look, treat people in the way that you want to be treated. Be open, be honest. If there's something wrong where you've made a mistake, don't shirk away from it, because that's how we learn to go forwards. But, apply common sense to things. And I find it sometimes so frustrating that a little bit of common sense would solve things very, very quickly. But people sort of, try and go round and round in circles rather than just being a bit direct and saying, I've got a problem. Can you help me, please? Nothing wrong with asking for help. In fact, most people would love it if you did ask them for help. So that's what really is I'm all about. And then, of course, making sure that, from a family point of view, I'm spending quality time with my family. I'm spending quality time with my grandchildren. And I love it. It's great. Life is good.
Absolutely love that answer. And some of the things you've said there are the first time that they've been said on this podcast with a range of people. But the common sense and the family time to me are really important. Family time for obvious reasons. Priceless. Time goes so fast. You blink and you miss it, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the common sense approach, it's so simple yet so effective, isn't it? And I think sometimes you can get sucked into a problem and overcomplicate it, where if you step back and you're not in the eye of the storm and you see clearly and neutrally, the common sense approach works the majority of the time. And I think certainly for me, when I'm jettisoned in to come and solve an issue, or our team are jettisoned in to come and solve an issue, or achieve an objective, I think the benefit that we have is we've got the helicopter view of what's happened, so we can see all of the pieces of the puzzle. And that common sense approach is something certainly we focus on, and it unlocks things so often it's just overlooked. So I'm so glad that you raised that. And the mistake point as well. I've had some brilliant answers across other individuals that have been have joined me. And there's a common theme here. Whenever I speak to people that are just starting their legal career or are starting in whatever career it may be, and that they look upwards and they see a CFO or a COO or a CEO, senior individual within a business, they just assume that everyone's got the answers, and they just assume that no one asks for help. And I'll answer for me, you can answer for you in a minute. That could not be further from the truth. I still ask for help. I haven't got all of the answers. I rely heavily on my team. I make mistakes. I learn from them. And I think if you don't make mistakes, then potentially you're not operating on that level of optimal performance, because you're not trying to drive forward outside of your comfort zone. So I don't know what you think about that, Bali.
No, I agree with everything you said there. I mean, I completely rely upon my teams. The teams is so important to me, which is why I always encourage them to work in an open, honest, common sense way. And I'm always available for them on the basis that, they may need some help. Equally, I might need some help as well.
Yep.
And if I do, I have no problem in going to one of my team members and saying, guys, I need a bit of help on this, or let's just have a think about this. Let's have a chat about it, just an open chat about something. And sometimes that actually helps to unlock the issue for you very quickly as well. Whereas you can sometimes spend, hours and hours racking your brain, but because you're so enmeshed in that detail of something, you cannot lift yourself out sometimes and see, the wood from the trees, as they say. So,
Yeah.
no, I agree with you entirely. Teamwork,
Yeah.
open communication, you know, discussing things and not being afraid to ask for help. I have a good relationship with a lot of our stakeholders, whether it's our sort of legal support team, whether it's our accountants, whether it's our bank, etc. Because again, the help that you can get, and sometimes just asking a daft question, unlocks a brainwave, and you think, "Wow, actually, that's right."
I'm pretty good at daft questions.
Oh,
I put my hand up for that. But I think, as you say, the daft questions, normally they're the question where everyone else is sat in the room thinking, I want to ask that, but I'm not going to be the one who asks it.
yeah,
And as soon as someone asks it, you can just see everyone thinking, I'm glad he asked that because I was thinking exactly the same thing. And if I look across not only the team that I'm part of, but the wider firm, the more eyes on a problem, the better the solution, because we all come at things differently. We've all got different skill sets. We've all got different abilities. And I think you're very, very fortunate if you can find people to complement you. And again, I'm a firm believer of putting people that are better than you around you, because then you just
absolutely.
push everyone to the next level. And I'm certainly not afraid to bring in different expertise that I would class are an improvement on mine in some areas, because then that pushes me to be the best version I can be. Um, you
I, I,
mentioned something. Sorry, Pally.
I was going to say I agree with you, and I think sometimes people are afraid to recruit people who may be a challenge to them because they may appear on paper to be better than them. I have a completely opposite approach, which is I try to bring in people who are on paper or in practice better than me because
Yep.
A, it helps me, B, it frees me up, and three, I can learn from them. Um, so I would encourage everybody not to be afraid to bring in people who may be vying for your job. I'm not afraid of that. I like the challenge of it, in fact, because I know they will help the business and me move forwards.
We're aligned. I could not agree more with that. And again, I think there's a misconception that if you're at a certain level, you're the best at what you do. Potentially, and yes, in some aspects for sure. But I think there are always people that can help you along the way, and always help the business improve and you improve. And I suppose that leads me on to um, you lead numerous teams.
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce so you get success or you get the optimal performance out of the teams? How do you make that happen?
Again, I think it's just about being open, communicate well with them, make sure that they understand what their responsibilities are, and they know what you're doing, what your vision is, and you can only communicate that. You've got to communicate it very, very well to them, openly. Create an atmosphere where collaboration works, teamwork works. Create an atmosphere where they feel they can come to you not just with a work problem, but if they've got something going on in their personal lives, come and talk to me, because we're all humans at the end of the day.
Yep.
We've all got things going on in our lives. And, and so I will sit down and just have chats with people. I just go and sit at their desk and just have a chat, not about work, a bit of
Yep.
football, a bit of banter, a bit of things to make everybody feel that they're part of the family.
Yep.
And that's for me the most important part of it all, and that's what makes it tick. So people want to work for you, they want to come and talk to you. They want to do well because they can see the vision, they can buy into it. And once they're bought into it, it's people's free will at the end of the day. If you can get people's free will working towards the common goal in a sensible, structured way, it's the foundations of success for me.
I won't name names. So when I was a very, very junior, we had someone quite senior come into the team, fresh, and about 3-4 months passed. And I remember someone saying in the office, how do they get you to walk over hot coals? I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, looking in, you and other people are doing far, far more than what you ever used to do before. How have they got you to do that? And I suddenly thought about it. And it was that human touch, Bali. It was that human touch of getting to know me, getting to know what was going on outside of the four walls of work, getting to know all of the other individuals in the team, and building up a relationship that was a true relationship.
Yeah.
Not just that you're here to work 9 to 5, you've got to do this, this, this. It was actually the caring side of, look, what's going on in your life? What are the problems? What's good? What's bad? What's indifferent? And getting to build up that personal rapport. People buy from people, whether that's services, whether that's investment into time, in job roles. And I think if you can unlock that, like you were just talking about, it helps push people to become the best version and build confidence. So they actually think, do you know what? I can do this and I can be whatever I want to be. And I'm going to show everyone that I can. But it's so hard to do, isn't it? It's so hard.
It is. And it's time consuming as well.
Yeah.
But the rewards from it, in my view, are far greater than if you sort of semi-ignore it. You know, and I hate when I see people who come into the office and they're not smiling, or they're not courteous in the morning and they don't say good morning. Because I walk around and I say good morning to everybody, and I say, how are you? Hello.
Yeah.
What a great day it is. I'm alive. I'm full of beans, etc. And when I see people a bit sort of looking a bit down, I say, are you okay? Is everything all right? And hopefully they open up and that changes them. But yeah, absolutely. The most important thing is people for me all the way through.
Bali, where did you not learn, but where was that instilled from your mum again? I know you mentioned your mum previously. Where do you think that was learnt from or took on board from?
Well, I think probably from a number of bosses. So I've been very lucky in the sense that I've had some really good bosses who have been mentors, who have been, comrades and, go out for a beer with me, etc., etc. And I think a lot of them have taught me different things.
Yeah.
And some of those things come through as common themes with successful people. The whole sort of thing about communication, the whole thing about common sense, and the whole thing about treat people the way that you want to be treated. You've got far better chance, right, of getting success from people if you treat them as human beings rather than as machines.
Yep.
And it's been installed in me by a number of different people, to be fair.
Yeah.
And I just try and learn from that every day, and every day is a new learning experience for me, because you meet some different people and you think, oh, did I handle that right? I like to go away and think, well, was I as as nice as I could have been? Was I as friendly as I could have been? Was I as supportive as I could have been? And if I'm not, then I need to change that a little bit.
I think you're very, very similar to me. So if I look back, I can think of some brilliant bosses, but equally I can think of some where I've sat there and thought, I never want to be like that, and I'm not going to be like that, and that definitely has shaped my approach. I think I've only got better with self-reflection as the years has gone on, and I think I like you. I like to understand how to be better and how to make sure that today I'm better than I was yesterday, and the next day I'm better than I was today. And I think that self-reflection piece, I've started using that. Not I wouldn't say recently, but I've started using it over the past number of years. And it's really helped me, because there's situations where I thought, did that go well? Yes, great. But then equally, I've gone home and thought, did that go well? No. Why didn't it go well? What could I have done better? What do I need to do? And I think if you self-analyse, it does help you. It sounds cheesy. Become a better version of you, whatever that version is. And going back to the mistake point and improving, I think every day I look at, has today been successful? Have I achieved what I wanted to achieve? And the answer to that is initially no, because I haven't gone through my list. But then I look at what I have done, and actually yes, because in your role and my role, I'm sure, the amount of curveballs that come out on a daily basis, and you're constantly having to adapt, pivot, change hats, look at what needs to be done, look at what needs to be prioritised, then I have achieved the objectives, but it's just about recalibration and actually having the ability to not initially do what you set out to do, but you've achieved plenty by doing what you've done, if that makes any sense.
No, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, I try, apart from when we've got pre-arranged meetings, whether it's strategic or whether it's a health and safety meeting or whatever it may be, or an auditor's meeting or a meeting about a legal case or something.
Yeah.
Yes, there are so many curveballs that come in and change what you're doing and how you're doing, and you have to be able to adapt to it. And yeah, for me, the measure of my success at the end of the day is have I put in a solid day and have I achieved something? Yes, there might be things on my list which I was going to try and do and I haven't done, but they can wait because the curveballs had to be dealt with first of all. And have we dealt with them well? And have I dealt with people in a good way? Have I learned something? And can I go back now home and have a bit of quality time with my family, and happy days. Happy days.
And go again the next day.
Absolutely.
You've mentioned now, and I'm interested. Communication. What's your top tip on communication? How do you communicate effectively? What have you found works for you?
Regular communication. Whether you call them huddles or little meetings, etc.
Yeah.
I think you can apply that equally to your family as you can do to work life as well. I think a lot of people actually improve their communication during COVID, but we seem to generally have moved away a little bit from that. Some people embraced it and have continued to embrace it. The Teams calls, the Zoom calls, the chats that we had with our families, we were playing, charades and games with our family in London and everything over it. And it was brilliant. We'd set their time aside. So for me, it is all about open communication, regular communication. Be honest. It's a thing I learned a long time ago, which was sometimes you try and sugarcoat things a little bit. Do you know what? You're not doing yourself any favors or the person you're communicating with any favors. Be open, but be humane about it and be, supportive and look for the positives in it. And let's celebrate success more. There's so much success, which I just don't think people celebrate it enough. That's one of the things I did here when I came here. I said, guys, you've got a successful business, right? Instead of worrying about that little bit that isn't maybe going right, let's celebrate the good things first, right? And let's work on those little bits. And all of a sudden you'll have even more success out of it.
Bali, I think you're so right, and I'm guilty of that. So success could be a number of things, either personal or at work, whatever that looks like. But I'm certainly guilty of not taking in the moment and always chasing the next thing. And you don't actually appreciate what that success is, whether that's been a long-standing case, whether that's something personal that you've achieved. My wife always says to me, why are you chasing the next thing? Why are you not just happy with what you've achieved? So I'm definitely guilty of that. And I think every day there is a success, whatever that may be.
Absolutely.
Take some time to step back and actually let it digest that something good has happened without chasing or thinking, right, I've got to go on to the next thing immediately. But that's a life lesson. I think that takes time to really, really understand. So you've touched upon leadership, communication. Apart from that, what's your leadership style and why?
It's actually changed over time, which hopefully has been positive. I used to be when I was a bit younger and got my first sort of financial controller's job, I was a bit, abrupt and a bit brash and a bit, cocky even, so to speak, and you do that. And I quickly learned that actually, yes, that can achieve short-term results, but communicating with people, openly, honestly, and working with them and being collaborative and supportive actually gets you the long-term success. So my leadership style is open honestness, but I am not afraid to make key decisions, and people know that. And so, people respect you, I think, for the fact that whilst you'll be supportive, you'll be helpful, you'll be open with them, you're not afraid to make tough decisions at the right time and execute them as well. And so I think it's my leadership style is hopefully people understand what they can expect from me. And if they know what they can expect from me, then I think I've done my job as a leader, quite frankly.
I think that's important as well, Bali. You've touched on two things there, that you're not the same person now who you were when you started. And I think that's evolution, isn't it? And that shows that shows the ability actually that people do change, mould, are influenced, and actually all of our journeys are still going on. You're not fixed as to whatever you are. And I think if you are fixed, that doesn't show leadership, because you've got to adapt, you've got to change, you've got to find the best way forward for you and your team. But I think that one thing that you said there about making key decisions, I think as leaders, as a partner, as CFO, that is so, that's what we're there for, really, isn't it? It's making those really, really important decisions, listening to the team around you, and then we live or die by them. And hopefully we make the right decisions. And if we don't, well, how can we learn next time? And what could or should we have done differently? But I think having the ability and the decisiveness to make a decision, that's pretty much what we're there to do for most of the time, isn't it?
It is, and at the end of the day, that's what leaders should be doing, is not being afraid to make a decision, but equally not being afraid to admit maybe that decision wasn't quite the right thing, but spot it early enough and do something about it. Don't just keep going down that blind alley, right? Because you made the decision, I've got to carry on with it. I have no problem in going to my team and saying, do you know what, guys? Let's have a little think about this, right? That's what we decided we're going to do. In hindsight, is it still right? If it's not, I'm quite happy to put my hands up and say, it's not right, let's change it. But let's deal with it. Don't just let it fester.
Yeah. The pride, isn't it? Don't let pride get in your way.
Absolutely.
I'm really interested in this question as well, Bali. So I'm going to ask it you.
Okay.
Do you ever suffer from imposter syndrome?
Explain what imposter syndrome is. Sorry, I'm not.
So thinking that actually I shouldn't be in this role, that I'm not good enough to be in this role. How have I, a normal, whatever a normal individual is, how have I as a normal individual got to be group CFO for Palletline, this UK, this European-based network? How have I got to be here?
I don't think I suffer from it as such. I'm very grateful, and I'm well aware of the responsibilities. We've got within the group, we've got 500 employees, and then in the wider breadth, we've got 67 members who have got a range of number of employees. You can't even guess how many employees there are, and they've got families, etc. So for me, it's more about being aware of the fact that as a leader, I'm hopefully here because I've proven something to the people who make the decisions, and I've delivered in the past.
Yeah.
But it's more about, for me, is making sure that everything that I'm doing is being done with a view to, being successful with the business, but making sure that everybody is coming along on that journey. So, no, I don't suffer from imposter syndrome, but I am grateful for where I am. I'm cognizant of the responsibilities that I have, and I want to do the best that I can do. And, I will put in the time and effort that's needed because, quite frankly, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, hard work, there's no substitute for it. You've got to be prepared to work hard with that balance with the right balance. And if you do, then generally you will be successful. And
Could not agree more.
a little bit of fortune along the
Yep.
way. And sometimes we don't recognize good fortune when it comes along. Grab it, take it, and be proud of it. If sometimes you win a football match on luck, you don't hear the manager saying, "Oh, I wish I didn't have that luck," or "I didn't really embrace it." Yes, I embraced it, and I walked away with 3 points on that match. And I think it's the same thing in life. Embrace that bit of luck, right? Embrace that bit of good fortune, and build on it.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. One thing I'd add to that, and I don't know whether you agree with this, it comes back to your working hard point. I think if you work hard and you put yourself in a position for that luck to happen, that then results in something that you're trying to achieve, I think you've got to be in it to win it, and you've got to be in or around whatever the position is that you're trying to get to. But you've got to work hard. If you don't work hard, it's not going to come to you, and that luck isn't going to happen. Well, it might happen, but the chances are that it won't. I think you've really got to commit. You've got to work hard, and then that luck should come from it, or it did for me anyway. I can look back and think, where was I lucky in my career? But I think that luck only came because I worked hard to be in the position that the luck happened. If that makes any sense.
It absolutely does, and I think whoever you look at in a role, etc. And it's the good football managers always talk about their strikers going through a barren spell, don't they? And they say, as long as you keep getting into the positions, as
In the
long
box.
as you keep on working hard, as long as you keep on telling your team that you're there and showing him you're there, it will go in off your backside, quite frankly, and that little bit of luck will smile and all of a sudden open up for you. So it's the same in everybody's lives, quite frankly. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Bali, just unpicking something you said just a couple of minutes ago about making the decision and then ensuring that the team come with you on that journey. Again, that sounds so easy, but it's one of the most difficult things to make sure that the people that you need on the journey with you are with you. How do you, or how have you, brought people along on the journey with you? Communication again, I think you're about to say.
Well, I think it's a couple of things in that. Decisions for me fall into two categories, right? Decisions which are easy to understand, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll have milk in my tea, right? It ain't difficult to understand, right? And so you follow the journey, so to speak, right? And then there's a vision about, right, we're going to do things in this particular way. Well, why? Okay. But what I try and do is, before somebody asks me why, I explain to them what the sort of situation is, what I'm proposing to look at, where I want to get to, so that they can see the end before they see the start, almost, right?
Okay. Yeah.
The end journey, that the common sense approach towards it is actually, yes, we've got to get there. Two avenues. This is what I think is the best way. If you think there's a different way, tell me. And if they don't come up with a different way, decision is made. Hopefully they're bought into it because they understand it. So
Like that.
it's about making sure that they understand the end that we're trying to get to, right? And the journey along the way may weave one way or the other way, but let's take those decisions at that appropriate time, change it, but make sure we're still aiming for the end goal. Unless that end goal itself changes in 3 months' time, that end goal
Yeah.
might be the one goal to be going for. And if it is, let's reset ourselves.
Like that, Bali. Really conscious of time, so I'm going to ask you one last question, and then I'm going to go on to my favourite bit, which is the quick fire questions. But you touched on this right at the very, very beginning, and you said the global situation, that the situation in this company economically is very, very challenging at the minute. So, what are you doing as a business to adapt, pivot, change to make sure that all of the noise that's going on outside that you can't control, how are you managing what you can control to get the best of a difficult situation at the minute economically?
Well, we are only as good as our customers, quite frankly, and that everybody's being challenged in different ways. I think, to be fair, at the moment, most of our business is UK based, and whilst the UK is suffering some after effects from everything that's going on, it's limited to an extent. So what we're carrying on doing is be aware of our responsibilities, both socially and in the world outside, but concentrate on making sure that we are prepared to be able to be agile. We can adapt to any changes that occur. If volumes go up and down, we can adapt to them and we can manage that situation. And just try to be as aware as you can be. Listen to what's going on, talk to different people, talk to your members, watch the trends, look for things. There's so much there that you can do to just try and stay on top of it. But it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge for a while now, I think. So all I can do is just, keep talking to people, keep communicating, keep listening, keep talking to our members, make sure our service levels are monitored and regularly, kept up to date, make sure that we're doing what we say we do on the box, and keep smiling.
Keep smiling. Right, quick fire questions.
Okay.
Are you KPI or people driven?
Both. I can't answer that with one way because both of them come into it in their different ways. And so absolutely people driven, but I need my KPIs as well.
Interesting. Okay. What is it that sets Palletline apart from its competitors?
The family orientated businesses which are focused on service and performance to our customers.
Listen to your head or heart?
Oh, interesting. In work, I listen to my head, and in family, I listen to my heart.
Micromanage or trust people?
Trust people.
Any regrets from a business perspective? Not personal, business.
Yeah. No regrets. No regrets. I think my career has, panned along nicely, and I've had, touch wood, luck and success and hard work in all the areas that I worked in. I've not left anybody in a bad way, so I think no regrets in that sense at all.
Yeah.
I think there are learning lessons, so when you look back, if I'd been maybe had the experience that I had, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, I might have done some things differently, but that's not because I regret it. That's because, I would have had the hindsight experience to have maybe done things a little bit better then.
We all would, right? Hindsight is a brilliant thing, and
Absolutely.
Life experience is exactly that. You've got to go through life to get life experience. So I'm with you on that answer. Last one. I've got this super duper time machine, so I can take you back to when you're 21, which was obviously a couple of years ago, Bali. What key bit of advice would you give yourself, and why?
On my 21st birthday.
When you're sober, not when you're drunk, but so when you're sober.
Well, yeah, I suppose the lesson I've learned is that I wouldn't have had that double whiskey at the end of it, which threw me over the top, I think.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Bali, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. We've covered some really, really important things there, and it's been so nice speaking to you. Thank you for being so open. Thank you for being you. And I'm certainly going to go and take away one thing that you said today: smile. So I'm going to smile for the rest of the day and go and speak to all of our team and make sure they're okay. So, Bali, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
No, thank you ever so much, James. It's my pleasure.